Hey guys, it's Charlene. Today I'm going to be working with the new Fishing Fanatics stamps, which are just gorgeous, and I'm going to be pairing them with some paper from the Farmhouse paper pack. Lots of really cool designs. I'm also using the previously released Mini Slim Pickens die, which coordinates perfectly with the Mini Slim rounded die. Today I'm going to be doing some watercoloring. Really easy, definitely something you should try. So I'm starting out here with a piece of watercolor paper, and then I'm using some watercolor friendly ink. So that way when I use my water on it, it's not going to smear. So I am getting a nice solid impression here so that I can do my watercoloring. Off camera, I do go ahead and double stamp, and then I have taped down on all sides my card panel. The reason I want to do this is because once I'm all done painting, I'm just going to leave this here until it is completely dry. That way I get very minimal warping from adding the water to the paper. So I'm starting out here with some brown ink, and you can see I'm kind of going full strength with my water brush pen on the areas that the stamp indicates should be shaded. And now what I'm doing is I'm adding that ink to some water I squeezed out to tone down the color, and now I can go back in and work those two together so I have some nice shading. For the fish, I'm going to be painting them blue, and later you're going to see I'm going to add some green accents. I don't actually know if there are any fish that are blue and green, but I just remember going fishing when I was a kid. I haven't been in a while, and how brightly colored all of the beautiful fish were, so I went with blue and green. I think it looks great, though I don't know what kind of fish is actually blue and green. But you can see what I'm doing when I'm watercoloring is I always start out by covering the area I'm going to be painting in with just some water, no color. And then I go back in with whatever color over the top of the water. That just helps it move around more easily on the page, and you get a nice blended look rather than having harsh lines. So on the fish, I did actually go ahead and do the light first, and then I put my dark shading in, and that was mostly because I wasn't really sure here what I wanted to do with the fish or how I wanted to shade them. I did ultimately end up doing the shading in the areas where the heaviest concentration of the dots on the fish were, as well as on their fins. It's really easy though with the watercoloring to blend the darker shaded areas in with the lighter areas. You literally just put some water over the top and rub your brush. Now, as I mentioned, I'm using a water brush, so the water is already contained in the little reservoir. All I have to do is paint and the water comes out, no problem. And if I want to clean my brush, I just squeeze it a little bit and wipe it on the paper towel to get any of the color off of my brush. For the little fishing lures, I'm going to color them in a couple of different colors. For this one, I wanted it to be a really bright green, so I'm doing several layers, not watered down, of the green. And then on the other two, I'm using a couple of different colors. So I came in with some red, and you can see here is when I decided I wanted to add that green in on the fish. Really easy to do at this point. The fish were starting to dry already, so I could just add those little green accents in there and not worry about them going all over the place. I've brought some yellow in here to add on the lures, and so the second one there is red and yellow, and the third I'm doing with yellow and blue. Now I did leave the hooks on them as well as the buckle without any paint, and I'm coming in here with a sterling silver pen that's kind of glittery to add a little bit of shine onto the images. It's going to look really nice when you turn the card in the light. It catches it and it just has a little bit of glimmer. Now this you do have to be a little careful with when you're doing it. You can see at the top there I'm sort of wiping out any excess, and it's just because these are such small areas. I want to be really careful not to use too much. So take your time. Just use the very tip of the brush on this in order to fill in all those spaces. Once I was done, I gave it some dry time, and then I can go ahead and peel off the low-tack tape that I used to tape down the card panel, and you're going to see there's almost no warping because it had that dry time flat. It makes it so easy. I absolutely love watercoloring. So here's that Farmhouse paper pack I was talking about. It has all of these really fun pattern papers in it. I'm going to be using this awesome wood that's kind of got this red wash on it. It looks kind of like an old barn. And then I'm going to be using a piece that looks like newsprint. So I'm cutting this out. Now I can use the mini slim die on this, and I'm just taping it perfectly on the edges so I can make sure that I get all of the space that I need in order to cut out that full-size die. Now for this inset, you just want to make sure it is perfectly aligned so that you've got space on each side, and that can take a little bit of time to do, so take your time. And then I'm just taping it down, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those out off camera. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and this comes from another set called the Dad's Day stamp set, and I am stamping with some embossing ink, and I'm going to get a nice coat on my stamp because I really want to make sure that it has a nice coat on there, and I'm going to heat emboss this with some black embossing powder. The patterned paper is so easy to heat emboss on. It slides right off. You don't have any extra little pieces that get stuck to your paper. It is perfect for heat embossing on. So keep that in mind. I know generally people will heat emboss just on plain cardstock, but heat embossing on the pattern paper from Whimsy is so easy to do. Once I was done with getting my sentiment on there, I decided that I wanted to have it pop a little bit more, and I thought that the newsprint was a little bit distracting. So I've just come in here with a white gel pen, and I'm going around each of the letters here and there just to tone down the areas of the newsprint so it's not so busy behind the sentiment. This is completely optional. I don't know that it's really necessary, but I felt like it added a little bit more to the card to do this. So once I am done, I'm going to come in with a paper towel, and I can just blot any little extra bits of gel pen that are there, and it also helps to clean off the embossing. Now I have applied some double-sided foam adhesive all the way around my frame, and I've come in with some liquid adhesive on top just so I have some wiggle room, and I'm gonna pop that right over the top. And you could totally make this into a shaker card, and that would look awesome as well. I'm not doing a shaker today because I'm going to put all of those gorgeous little pieces that I watercolored on different areas of the card, and I thought it would be just enough to have that. I didn't feel like I needed to add any shaker mix to this. So I'm trimming around the edges just a little bit so you don't see that pattern paper peeking through, and now you can see how things are starting to come together. I think this card is so cute. It makes me want to go out camping. We love to go camping in the summertime. Just haven't done any fishing lately. I know it's kind of crazy, but we haven't done a lot of camping recently either, just because of, the world events over the last couple of years. So I decided off camera where to place all of my cute little elements here, and then I'm just using some liquid adhesive to adhere them. You could put some foam tape underneath the areas that are over the recessed wells if you want to add a little bit more security to your card. I know mine's not going to be going through the mail, so I didn't feel like I needed to do that on this particular card. And once I get everything down where I like it, I can go ahead and get my card base ready. I recently did a video on how to create shaped cards using your dies, and I'm going to be using that technique today because I don't want to have any edges around my card that I've created here. I want it to be seamless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rounded die that I used to cut out the mini slim Pickens die from, and I'm going to cut my card base using that. And all you have to do is get your card base the size you need it, and then you are going to get your die, and you're just going to make sure that on one side it goes below the cutting edge and you tape it there. And that's going to ensure that your fold line doesn't get cut and it's going to fit perfectly underneath your card. You can see when it comes out, there it is, it's perfect. And now I can just glue my top to my card base and that's pretty much it. It's gonna be seamless and it's gonna look really nice together. Now you saw at the beginning I had a couple of other fishing lures that I had colored. I decided not to put them on the front of the card because I thought there was plenty of stuff going on the card and I didn't want it to look too cluttered. So instead I decided to go ahead and glue them on the inside of the card, and I did one in the bottom right hand corner and then one in the top left hand corner, so it kind of frames the inside where you're going to put your greeting. And certainly you could also stamp something on the inside of the card. I decided on this card that I didn't feel like it needed anything extra, and I was going to write the greeting on the inside just myself. So once I get that other lure down where I like it, that is going to finish up my card. Now you can see up close that embossing powder melted just looks so cool. It adds that extra bit of shine to the sentiment. I hope you guys like this card. I hope you find some time to get crafty today. Be sure to join us over in the Whimsy Stamps Facebook inspiration group, and you can also follow Whimsy Stamps on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. Until next time, happy crafting!